Well, Wasatch 100, the story of when I didn't trust my body anymore and my first DNF. Let's get into it. Okay, so drove down Thursday. Had to pick up my bib number to wear on my stuff because you have to wear like a race number on Thursday, and we had to get there by 4. So we left. Pretty easy drive down, no big deal. And then get, an hour away, and I get a call from my friend Sam, who's going to pace me the last 31 miles. And he says he has COVID, so he's not going to be able to pace me. No big deal. We can figure it out. Then 30 minutes later, I start having a scratchy throat. Not awesome, but it's okay. I mean, I've raced in various levels of discomfort before. We're all doing these things because they're going to be hard. Still, sure, I can get it done. No big deal. Pick up the bib number, go stay with my friend Zane, have everything dialed, set up, good to go. My other friend Sam, I was going to have 2 Sams pace me. He gets down there at 9:30, go to bed. I guess before bed, I was feeling more and more sick, actually. Felt like I had a fever at this point. No big deal. I got to do positive vibes only because it's this close to race day. I mean, that was a mere 8 or 9 hours till the race was going to start. So I started drinking a lot of water because I remember Benjamin Franklin said when you feel bad, you're supposed to just chug 2 big old glasses of water. So I thought that was going to work. But apparently this medieval method didn't do much other than make me have to get up and go pee every hour during the night before the race. All right, whatever. Wake up at 3:40, I think. I had just a little coffee to get the system running. Good to go. Pack all ready. Kit all on. Ready to go. Get to the start line at 4:30 and get out. And it's like, uh-oh, I already took care of business, but I have to go to the bathroom again and take care of more business. But the line is long, like probably 70 people long. This race had 350 people in it, and it was not great. My stomach felt like it had turned upside down, and it was like, I have to go to the bathroom now. Like, it doesn't matter anything else. This is the number one priority before I start. That's how desperate it sounded like. So I stood in line, so tried to get through any small talk that there was, and finally at 4:55, 5 minutes before the race starts, I get to the front of the line and get to use the bathroom. I get in there, and it is one of those things that's not a quick in and out. It was like it starts coming and it doesn't stop coming and it doesn't stop coming. And by the time I exited, I had to hit the ground running. So that was bad. It was not good for instilling confidence in my stomach. I left the bathroom, and then it was like 3, 2, 1, go. And I still had like 100 feet to the start line. So I started in pretty much last place, unless there were other stragglers out there. So way in the back. And there's basically the first 10 miles, let's just say, is a climb. So people are moving slow, and it becomes single track pretty quickly. I passed a few people, as many as I could in that first little bit, just to try to get in position to be near the front where I thought I should be. But I probably was in 200th place, 250th place out of 350 runners. So that was hard. I had a bad attitude about that. It was already like, oh my gosh, my head hurts. My digestive system is not good. We are hitting massive diarrhea levels. This is not great. So, I mean, in this period of moving at like 2 miles an hour in the back of the pack, it was like, okay, well, this is what I'm stuck with. What I'm going to do is take care of myself. So I pop some Pepto-Bismol because it's like, I'm not getting in front of this thing, but I might as well try to head it off at the pass if I can. So the other thing about this race is when I woke up in the morning, my heart rate was like, felt pretty high. I had a fever, and it was like, my friend had just said he had COVID, and I just didn't really know what to do. I do know my body pretty well, and I've never raced in a heart rate monitor or heart rate strap, but I had one. I usually bring one just in case. It was like, well, things are pretty weird, so I'm going to strap this sucker on, and then at least I can monitor my body along the way. So it was pretty easy at the back of the pack. I mean, we were just all hiking it out. Everyone was being really smart and conservative so that they could finish and hit their goals. I was hoping to push a little harder, but no big deal. For the first 3 or 4 miles, it was pretty tame, just kind of hiking uphill. You'd kind of wait if there was a high step or a log to crawl over. You'd kind of just wait your turn. It was a little different style of racing than the shoot out of a cannon from the front that I'm used to, but that is okay, especially given the scenario here. That one fact alone might have helped me prolong my race by further than I thought. But in the moment, it was pretty frustrating. My heart rate was still in the like mid 130s, which for hiking and moving slow, it should have been like 107 or something. Like I did a 4,000 foot peak, a climb that has 4,000 feet of gain. Oh my gosh, for European listeners and Canadian listeners, that's like 1,300 meters maybe. Here, a week or two ago, and average heart rate was like 107 or something. And it was the same altitude and about elevation gain. And this was 20, 23, 25, 29, some number. Apparently I like odd numbers, some odd number higher. So that was a little alarming, but it was like, okay, maybe it's pre-race jitters. We're not going to worry about it. I'm going to keep sticking to the plan, use all the tools I have. We're just going to get through this. I'm going to adjust my goals. I'm going to go for maybe conservative, sneak in to sub 24-hour pace. This may not be my day, but I have experience. I can fight through this. No big deal. So we climb up. I kind of move my way up a little bit as there's like some opportunity because it's pretty steep climb, and there would be like these chunks of 50 people in a group and then maybe like 100 yards and then the next group of 50 people. So I tried to move up a couple different groups and just get kind of up where I felt like it was more comfortable for me. Near the top of this climb is where, still hiking in one of these groups, probably right the midway point, maybe like 175th place, who knows. But my heart rate was just like getting really high. And then it was no big deal. Well, I didn't think it would be a big deal because we'd stop once in a while or slow down to a mile an hour or something if there was like technical step downhill or something. But it would never drop down. I even stepped off to pee a couple times and then waited a couple extra seconds to see if it would drop down. But it was constantly in the 160s, which is very high. That'd be like if I was doing a track workout. These are a lot of numbers, nerd stuff. I'm just trying to do the play-by-play. It is like way too soon for me to be doing this episode. I got a lot to process anyways, but we're going to process it here live in front of you, bring in the audience. Thanks for listening. This was like my hardest, disappointing, rough race. Okay, so get to the top of this climb, then you're on this pretty smooth road, good downhill. And I was able to drop into this really, really easy endurance pace and move. Things felt like they were okay the whole time. It's probably been 2.5 hours at this point. Beautiful sunrise off to the east. The mountains are gorgeous. My body is just feeling awful, splitting headache, but things feel like they're going to be okay. I've been consuming 90 grams of carbs an hour. I'm right on my plan for executing the race. I'm just moving way slower and my heart rate's way higher than it should be. Like I usually go by feel. I don't like to look at numbers because I know my body, but just waking up, I knew that I didn't know my body on this day. That's why I threw in the extra tool of a heart rate monitor. So nerd stuff aside, get pretty easy jog down, was able to jog most of the downhill. Body and legs felt good. Body, I guess I'm just referring to lower body, felt good. Like all the minor issues or major issues of like Achilles injury this year and rolled ankles and stuff, all that was not a concern. Everything felt fine and healthy and strong. I mean, I had taken the climb about as conservative as I could ever see myself doing in a race. So this downhill was pretty good. Like got through it and then got to the first water stop, filled up my water, drank some more, was very much in this. The more I can hydrate and consume calories, the more it's going to help me. It's going to be in the mid 90s today. I actually need to take care of my body. Things have always turned around. I've always figured out a way through it. So that was my plan. Like stick to the plan, try not to stress. Excuse me. I'm still sick. Spoiler alert. Stick to the plan, get to wherever I get to and things will turn around. It'll be okay. But I want to be in a good spot that I can move at that point. So get to the water stop, fill up, drinking more climbing, feeling really good on the climbs. I didn't take poles. It seemed everyone else, at least in this like mid-pack area, had poles. I didn't feel the need for them. I was able to pass people with poles, but it was like I would pass them and then like things would just get weird, like splitting, headache. Yeah, I guess that's like the biggest thing. And then as the day wore on, the average heart rate, probably at this point, we're going to keep talking about heart rate. Sorry if you're not into this. Still give me a 5-star review. Come on. Got issues right now. So maybe mile 22, 23, average heart rate keeps creeping up. It's now in like the high 140s. And then it started sticking at 157, which I remember vividly in my mind. And then it would creep up into like 163. And this is like if you're sprinting from a bear, what your heart rate would be. And I wouldn't trust this normally, but I just had changed the battery on my heart rate monitor. I felt my pulse and counted it out, and it was that as well. So my body was treating this hike in the woods, literally hiking. I've done 35,000 miles of this hiking, as if it's like fight or flight. So that was actually starting to get pretty scary. I was like, well, I cannot go any slower. I can't really walk slower on these sections. I'm even walking some of the downs. And I turned into like, okay, I can take this as conservative as I can within reason, and I'm just going to be as efficient as possible. This was like my Cocodona strategy. Once I had an Achilles injury, it was like, we're going to take care of business at aid stations, but no stopping, no sitting. So that's what I did. I just grabbed a little nutrition, filled water, moved right through them. No big deal. It's like, this has got to turn around. Like I'm doing all the things I can think of, like hydrating well, even topical cooling. I had a little bandana that I would dip in every creek and put like right on the back of my neck so that it would like kind of drip down and hit my core pretty well. I was trying to do everything, and it wasn't even hot yet. It was probably like mid 60s at this point. And so it was a little bit of a concern, but it was still like, I can probably solve this. Like I have been through so many different things. I have a lot of tools. I have a lot of things in my pack. No big deal. I also had hit my inhaler a lot more than I ever do. Maybe a normal race, I hit it 0 or once within the first 50 miles. Maybe by the end, if it's dusty or pollution or some air quality, I don't know why pollution, but if there's something like that, maybe I'll hit it a couple more times. But this was like, I kept hitting it and it wasn't really having the desired effect. So I couldn't get good breaths in, and my heart rate was weird, but I was still positive. Like my legs felt pretty good. I could jog downhill at like a 10 to 11 minute mile, feeling comfortable enough with kind of where my body was at. The heart rate was still high, but it was like, well, I can't do much more with this. I'm just going to try to take things as I can. So it went fine. I really wasn't getting passed by anyone at this point. I wasn't passing anyone. I was probably right where I needed to be considering what I was dealing with on this day. And I get into, I think it's like Big Water or something. It's mile 31 where I first see my crew. See them, things are good. We do like a quick topical cool, put some ice in, and it's like, I think I have a massive fever, so let's do a lot of ice. It wasn't a question of quitting. It was like, I might have COVID or a sickness, but I know I have a fever. I might have those things, but I know I have a fever right now, and it's really early and it's going to get hot. So let's try topical cooling. Maybe my body will sort itself out. And that's what we did. Piled on a ton of ice. Made that next climb really well. Didn't even get passed by anyone. Passed a couple people actually. I was just consistent, super efficient. I was sticking right to that 90 grams of carbs per hour, drinking 1 liter of water. Well, I had electrolytes in it too per hour. I was like taking immaculate care of my body, better than I have any other race, which is pretty funny because this did not turn out like every other race. So got to the top of that climb and jogged down. It's a very hot section to Alexander Aid Station. It's like desolate, like rolling hills with no trees, no shade. It's getting hot. It's probably in the mid to high 80s by now. People are walking. People are struggling from the heat. I feel good. I had this method where I would put like a big pile of ice in a bandana under my visor. So it would just like melt into my head, I guess. And then I had some down the back of my shirt, in between my vest and my back too. So I had a really good cooling strategy. I stayed pretty cool during like probably the hottest sections of the course. So I got into Alexander. I was feeling way better. There were like people sitting there just staring off into nothingness. Like they were beat up by the heat. There was one woman with like a really low bib number, which I assume means that she was ranked pretty high, or they thought she would do well. She was walking in, calling her, I think it was her husband, saying she was going to quit. And so people were doing rough. And it was like, I cannot stay here. This seems like where people go to die. So I did. They had like a bucket or like a big, like a wash bin from like the 1800s with a bunch of ice and water in it. So I grabbed the sponge. I like did full on topical cooling, got really cold, put ice everywhere. Again, good to go. And it was like, okay, I'm feeling rough. We'd switched the strategy from that last aid station. It was like, okay, energy level's low. Headache is pretty bad. I need to just like find some energy. So until we figure out what's wrong, let's do caffeine. So I was doing like 100 milligrams an hour, maybe slightly more. But then at that aid station, it was like, I think I need like some more quick calories too, along with some caffeine. So I asked if I could take a whole can of Coke. And so I actually did. I grabbed that. Things are not going good. I walked out of that aid station just like splitting headaches still, even though I'm feeling cold, almost like brain freeze cold. So like the topical cooling does not seem to be helping. It's not an external thing. It seems to be an internally motivated body thing of this fever. So I drank this Coca-Cola, and I mean, it was refreshing, as Coke always is. I don't even know what the slogan is. It's like, good. That's how it felt to me. And it was like 7 miles to the next aid station, slight uphill. I was able to run some of it. I did pretty well, past maybe one person passed me. So I'm still like moving the pace of the field, which is good. It felt like I was where I need to be. I can pull this together. I'm moving at a pace that is conducive with what my body has on this day. I'm pretty proud of that. I actually was able to self-assess, work with that. And once I realized that this heart rate issue was just going to bother me, I stopped looking at it for a while and just trekked on, and then got to Lamb's Underpass. And this is when it was peak heat of the day. Like people are in chairs, they're throwing up, they're doing terribly there. I felt fairly okay. I jogged into the aid station, legs felt good. I felt pretty hot. My whole body was like achy, but not, I've gone 48 miles at this point. So it was like, I know that I started out feeling really bad with a fever and a lot of issues, but considering I've gone 48 miles, it could be worse. So I'm still positive. I was having a lot of trouble breathing, but I'm all about tools. So I had more tools to try out, more tools in the toolkit. So it was like, I usually show up to ultras with enough tools to get to the finish line. Like if one doesn't work, you got the next one to try. There's always that optimism that you got one more tool, one more solution to try with the problem. So I get in there and tell my crew I need to hit this other inhaler that I have because my current one is not working. I'm really struggling to catch my breath. It feels like it's really light. I don't know how I would describe it. Maybe like breathing through a straw. That's how I have asthma, pretty bad asthma that's exacerbated by apparently respiratory infections or something. So I hit this little stronger inhaler that has some side effects, but who cares? You're in an ultra. So hit this one. It's like a disc inhaler. It really helped pretty immediately. I got in some calories, drank a lemonade. We did a lot more ice. And then I went off on that next section with Sam. I also had a protein shake at that one. I needed to just get something that might be a little more substantial. I wasn't really feeling great about eating anything other than gels, which I was still consuming at the rate that I planned on. So everything, I'm like following the plan perfectly, even though my body is not responding to this perfect plan and things are feeling atrocious. So I head off with Sam, didn't spend too much of that aid station because it's like, I am not getting better by sitting or resting. So we just need to keep moving. So we hiked up. It's like, I like to call it douche grade. So it's like the grade of hill where you could run, but your run is really not that much faster than a walk. And in this state, it was like, I'm good at hiking. We just need to hike this out. So we started hiking and we were chatting, me and Sam, the Sam that didn't have COVID, paced me and we just start making our way. And it's like, man, things are not feeling good. I just mentioned that to him a couple times and it's like, let's keep moving, try to not think about it. But my head is like throbbing now. It's like the boom, 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 boom. Like I can feel my pulse in my head and my pulse is pretty high. This is also when it was like need to take off my heart rate monitor because it's freaking me out. I don't like the numbers that are on there. They are accurate, but at this point, this is not helping me. It's sending me into a spiral. I'm getting a little panicky about it. So take that off, disconnect it, don't look at that anymore. We just hike up the hill. It's like, no big deal, we can do it. And then near the top, it's like, oh man, everything is hitting. I can feel like breaths catching in the top of my throat. My throat is feeling, I don't know, like when you're breathing and you're just not quite getting in everything you want. This made me not be able to, I didn't feel comfortable eating. I didn't really want to drink too much water. I was feeling like anything was going to irritate me and that might induce some throwing up because I have a really bad gag reflex. And once I throw up or gag, then everything that I've eaten in the last hour is going to come out. And that's what happened. So I didn't eat or drink because I was trying to hold it off as long as I could. I was doing like the little cheater way of eating and drinking or getting in calories. So I had 80 calories per bottle and I'd take a sip, swish it around in my mouth, hope some of it like soaked in, and then spit out most of it and just consume a little. And it worked for maybe an hour. And near the top of that hill, it was like, man, I'm not feeling good. And he's like, it'll be okay. And it's like, no, when I say I'm not feeling good, it means it's bad. So I puked right there on the trail. I got out all the calories I had eaten in the past hour. They were all on the ground, and it was like, all right, let's keep going. Maybe it's a puke and rally. And if it's not, we got to get some miles while the getting's good, because there's like that little bit of adrenaline or euphoria that hits after you throw up. That's what hit. And then I was riding that high, and then as got higher, the headache got worse. Now I'm getting dehydrated. Now I don't have energy because I don't feel like I can eat, or else I'm going to throw up again. And my body temperature just shot through the roof. I still had ice in my bandana. I was still topical cooling, but just internally everything was on fire. I took off my shirt. I went shirtless. I tried to be as prone to wind cooling me down as I could. Literally anything that would help drop my body temperature and like make my brain feel better, because like my brain felt like it was on fire. That was going to help. Hit the inhaler, didn't really help. Had to sit down multiple times because it would feel like my heart rate would be going like, and it probably was, but I took off the heart rate monitor because I didn't even want to know. I wasn't going to feel my pulse anymore because I knew it was beating. I just didn't want to know how fast. So we probably had to sit down like multiple times. I just needed water or something. And so we finally got to this creek, and I got some water out of it. I swished it in my mouth. It felt like heaven, just like washing out all the garbage that I'd thrown up out of it. Took a quick break, I guess. I switched some things in my pack. I think grabbed maybe caffeine gum or something to try to just give me something to focus on. And then things just started to crumble more from there. We got to like the next crossing of the river there, and it was like, oh man, this is really bad. I got to sit down. Sat down, and everything just exploded. Like my heart was beating really fast, and I was breathing really hard, like, and then that was inducing panic. And I was like, this is really not good. I'm saying to him between these gasps for air and so I turned and I elevated my feet. There's this little footbridge over the creek. So I turned, elevated my feet, put them up on the bridge, laid down. My back was on the ground just to try to get my body to calm down, but it wouldn't. I'm laying there motionless, arms out on the ground, feet elevated as you're supposed to do. And like this combination of stress internally on my body, whatever this sickness that I had, at the same time, and then that's inducing panic because I can't get control of my own body, and it was freaking me out. I've never had this where it's like something that my body's never done is happening, and I don't know what to do. I don't have any tools. I've never dealt with this. So I'm sitting there and it's going like, and then I like hyperventilate, and then that induces some throwing up. And so then it's just like, oh man, okay. But then that euphoria adrenaline hit, and it's like, we got to move while I can move. We just got to get as close as we can to the next aid station. And so we go about 5 minutes further, and then the same thing happens, and have to do this exact same thing where heaving on the ground, laying down, trying to get everything to calm down, trying to even like close my eyes to see if like I can incite things to calm down. I'm doing things with my hands. I'm like trying to touch myself on my chest, be like, calm down. It's going to be fine. And same thing happened. And then it would like usually end in like vomiting. And then same thing happened 4 minutes later. So he told me after that he was timing the time between episodes, and it started at like 7 or 8 minutes. And it was like 5 minutes and 4 minutes, then 3 minutes. And then by the time like we got through the section, it was like 1 minute between them. People are passing. A doctor stopped and was pretty concerned. A doctor running the race who stopped and was like, is everything okay? It's like, no, dude, it's not. But I mean, it's like he's running his race. So it's like, there's only, at this point we had 3 miles to the next aid station. And when I could between breaths, it was like, it's only 3 miles. We can make it. And so that's what I told him. I didn't want him to mess with his race. So we got to this road crossing in the midst of these issues. This thing just keeps elevating, and I'm getting freaked out because I don't trust my body anymore. I've never dealt with this. So we get to this road. The road actually goes to the aid station. We could have stopped and hitched there, but it just felt like this internal thing of like, I don't know how I'm going to make it through this race. I got to make actually getting to this aid station under my own power my new race. And the route follows, it's like 100 feet up from the road through the woods. It's on a trail. And it was like, if everything goes wrong, I told Sam, between these episodes, it was like, if everything goes really bad, we can just go back down to the road and figure it out there. But I would like to try to make it to the aid station myself, because I don't know how things are going to go from there. So that was the plan. And it was like every 3 minutes, every 2 minutes, every 1 minute, there would be one of these issues. And then like maybe 2 miles from the aid station, like my eyes, I could feel them like rolling up in my head. It's not even dark. I've only been awake for 12 hours or something, like a normal day, but my eyes would like roll up in my head. It felt like, and then would be like foggy, and the ground would be like moving like an earthquake or something. So that would be happening. And then he actually took a video of me, and I'm walking down the trail, I'm swerving, and I'm like stepping off the side. It's not like a cliff, but it's like a steep downhill, like a couple inches further, and I would have like tumbled. And for some reason I couldn't register like that's where I was stepping. And that's where I didn't need to be stepping, but my body was still making me step there. And so it was still 2 miles to the aid station. And it was just like, I cannot move any faster. I'm going to keep moving as quick as I can. And it was just like, I'm going to maximize my movement between these episodes that I'm having. And like everything was just so foggy. And it started getting dark. We got to about a mile from the aid station, and I couldn't even like contain anything. So I turned my watch onto where it shows how many miles you've gone. And I was just counting down like 0.01, like hundredths of a mile were victories. I was just watching it tick slowly because I had to have something that I could focus on that was showing progress to this aid station, because I made this aid station basically my finish line. And around this time, it was like, I told Sam, I don't think it's going to be safe for me to keep going. And he was like, oh yeah, no, it's not. I don't think there's any way you can go past that aid station. But until that moment in my mind, it was like, oh, maybe this will like pass and I can get over it. But I think the main reason that we came to that conclusion too, going into that aid station with like a mile to go, was I was swerving. He was walking on the side of the hill just in case I stepped off and fell. Like that's how concerned he was with my inability to move like a normal person. And I was going to have like 22 miles through the night without a pacer. And it started to worry me, because just in trying to think and thinking back on it, was like, I cannot put myself in this situation where I am out there alone, depending on me to not let me fall off a cliff when I am not mentally stable or sound. So things came to a head, and we heard that aid station, crawled into it, and I asked for medical immediately, or Sam did. I don't even remember. Things got really foggy and blurry and messy there. So sat by the heater. I felt like I was extremely cold, but also my head was extremely hot. So it was a really weird feeling. I don't even know how to describe it. Like everything I had was soaked. I'm not even sure how that happened either. So sat in there, and then after a couple minutes, it was like, yeah, for sure cannot go on. I do not trust my body. I've never gotten to this point where I don't trust my body. Like I've hallucinated, but I feel like I can use tools, harness adrenaline, get things to snap out of it. But I didn't have any like ability to pull myself out of it. I didn't have any tools. Caffeine wasn't working. I couldn't grasp onto firm things in reality, and the whole world was bouncing. And Sam was going to would have done like 10 more miles with me until I was on the section with no pacer. And it just was like, well, if this gets worse, especially with this really weird hyperventilating breathing and this racing heart rate, this is not fair to put him through this, especially if something happened to me. Like we were joking after, like he'd taken online first aid. It's about the level that he was prepared to go through. And it's not like any of us knew what to do out there, and I was incapable of anything. So that aid station, they had like Starlink or someone had service, and he called Allison, my girlfriend, and it was just like, yeah, I physically can't go on. I don't trust my body, and my body is scaring me. It's failing, and I'm getting really scared with how it's responding to these things, and I can't do it. I've had one panic attack in my life, and I ended up in the hospital because I thought I had a brain tumor or something. I did a full scan and everything. So that is where it felt like things were headed. And it felt like the only responsible thing to do was at mile, I think it was like 56 or 57, was to not continue. So really weird. I never thought I would DNF. I thought I could make it through everything. I thought I could finish this race at like 36 hours and still be a finisher. But I don't know. I didn't really care if it would take weeks or days or months or minutes or whatever to get to the finish line. I couldn't go on because I was so panicky and didn't trust my body, and it felt dangerous. So that is what happened with Wasatch 100. And I'm still kind of in shock because I didn't think my body would do that. So you have to fill out a form to DNF. I filled that out, and it said, why are you DNFing? And I just put broken. Then Alice picked me up, drove back into Salt Lake City, slept, drove back to Bozeman. I did have to get out and throw up on the way back. I think my stomach got pretty brutally destroyed from these gag-induced barfing fits from panic attacks. That actually happened when I had a panic attack and went to the hospital. I drove myself there. But it was like, yeah, I've been sporadically feeling like I have to throw up because I can't breathe and my airway feels like it's constricting and my body responds by gagging and feeling like it has to throw up. So that was exactly the thing that happened here. So mostly breathing issues, heart rate issues, pretty insane. Some of the miles I was looking at today on my Strava, it showed like there were like 20-minute miles with no elevation gain. I was doing 18-minute miles, which means I'm just doing normal hiking that like I said, I've done 35,000 miles of, and my heart rate was like 161, which would be sprinting pretty much. So that's just like so weird. And that was accurate. So that happened. I drove back to Bozeman and I took a COVID test and it was positive. So that's the story of the Wasatch 100. And yeah, the story of when you don't trust your body and it scares you, induces panic, and everything falls apart. It's the only time Sam's ever paced someone, and I sure hope he paces someone in the future because without him out there, it would have been interesting. So, I don't know what else to say about this one. That's 34 and a half minutes on 56 and a half miles. My first DNF at a race. I think I just need to recover. My legs feel really good, but my everything from my lungs to my head to my heart feels broken in every sense of the word, figuratively and whatever the not figurative thing is. All right, well, it's Sunday night, so I guess I'll put this one out tomorrow, but Man, thanks for sticking with this one. I have not even processed my own thoughts. But I like to put out 2 episodes a week and thought this one would be quite timely. I'm sure there's more to say on it, but yeah, it makes me pretty sad. It's been a pretty hard and disappointing year. I was going to do an FKT, the Wasatch Trail, with a friend in February. He had a stress fracture and I got the flu. So that one never happened. Then I did Cocodona in May, and during that, I had an Achilles injury that took about a month and a half to get back into running after, with lots of PT. Then after that, I tried the Tahoe Rim Trail, which did not go well. There were a number of issues. There's a good episode on that. A lot of gear failure and allergic reaction to bees, and just did not go well. And then follow that up with this sucker where I don't know what happened. Just everything wrong. My body failed me, and that's a scary feeling. It's not what you want. Okay, well, I seem to be needing to find some more confidence, but I'm going to do a stage race in 2 weeks because I'm signed up for one. And then at the end of October, I'm going to do Javelina 100. So we'll try another 100-miler. But wow, did not think I would DNF this race. I thought I could just hike it out for 36 hours with no issue getting to the finish under the cutoff, but sometimes things don't go your way, and if you've ever DNF'd or do in the future, I sympathize with you. It is hard. It's very hard. Okay, well, thank you all for supporting me. We will be back on Friday. I'm headed up to Canada to crew and maybe do a little pacing for a 200-mile race. In the meantime, stay elite, my friends.